We're back to learning coding on freecodecamp. We are at the front-end development library section. We'll start using Bootstrap. So these are simple libraries that you can use to style your websites. They have predefined or pre-built styles that you can easily implement using classes, for example. Let's start with our first lesson. You can access these libraries by putting them into your head. So the head of your website, just like we did with fonts or icons in previous courses on freecodecamp. An example is given right here. So we'll use the relationship style sheet. And then as the href, we refer it to a website. In our case, it has already been done behind the scenes, but here's an example of what it would look like. So we'll put it right here, where we've used, for example, fonts inside of our head. And in this case, it's version 3.3.7. As stated, it's already done behind the scenes, so we can access or use this Bootstrap library by using classes. We'll start right here. We should nest all of our HTML. So everything after style right here, code line 27. Side of a new div container. And now we use the container minus fluid class. And it's going to put the entire content, you could say, into a responsive container. Let's add a new image below the first one. So this should be right here. So I'll put it after the link. The source is given, so let me copy paste it. IMGs don't have a closing tag, just as a reminder. And now we use our Bootstrap class img-responsive, and it's going to make this image responsive. And if I now resize the window, you can see the image is being resized. And if I take that out, it's not going to be responsive. So this is what Bootstrap can do, for example, for images. We can center text. So instead of aligning it in our style or using CSS in an external CSS file, we can simply apply a class, for example here to our h2, which is the cat photo app text right here. One class already added to make this text red. And now we'll add text minus center, which is going to use Bootstrap and put the text into the center right here. Let's apply some Bootstrap to buttons. We want to add a new one first right here after our second image. Here you can already see it, and now we'll add our btn class first, and afterwards btn minus default. and it's going to change its appearance right away. Let me add the text like inside. And if I get rid of these classes, you can see it's a totally different style. btn makes it a little bit bigger, and btn minus default gives it this white color. Let's move on to create a block element. So here on the left hand side is already an example for submit button. This regular style, and then there's a block style, which makes it 100% of the available width. We can simply apply that to elements. For example, here to button by using btn minus block with Bootstrap. We should edit right here, code line 36, btn minus block. And now this one resizes according to a browser window size. So previously btn minus default has made our button white. Or we can use different colors, for example primary. And let me change default to primary. And now it's bluish. Alright, we'll create a new button. This time it's an info button. I'll just copy paste this one. We need the text info. And instead of btn primary, we'll use info, and it's a different color, so it's more turquoise. But we'll keep the rest, so still btn for button and block for 100% of the width. Let's add a third button, this time btn-danger. And danger is usually associated with red. So this is the default color that we're going to get. I'll create it from scratch, so button opening closing, delete text as class will need btn for button, btn minus block, and then btn minus danger. Bootstrap also gives you a grid system. You could say it's inbuilt and it uses 12 columns. So whatever you want to have, it has to add up to 12. We have 3 buttons, so it makes sense to use 3 times 4, which would be 12. So we can add our class. for column minus XS minus 4. At first we'll create a div container for all buttons, and this is a class of row. So that way we now know, or the browser knows, that all our buttons will be in one row. And each of them should get the width of 4 columns. So just add the class call minus XS for extra small minus 4. And don't forget to add your closing div tags. And we should be good here. Let's delete some of the CSS that was given by default here. We don't need .red minus text, so this class is not needed anymore. So code line 3 to 5 can be deleted. We don't need the P selector and smaller image, another class, we don't need that either. Let's check. We can delete the P element with the dead link right here. On the red text class, we've deleted that, so we don't need it here anymore. I will add text primary. So this was this bluish color in Bootstrap, and it's now added right here to our H2. Smaller minus image, we don't need that either for our first image right here. And we'll add img minus responsive to it instead. So now this first image also resizes when we resize our browser window. Time to move on to use a span to target inline elements. So we use this for the word love inside of our paragraph. And we'll change the text by using a class of text minus danger. Already used the same color for our delete button, so it's going to be this orange reddish color. Here's another example on the left hand side, but we're good. We'll change the style of our heading. We want to put the H2 and our image in the same line. So we can use a div class row once again, so like we did with the button. Let me add it right here, and I close it after our image. So the first one, H2 and the link image are nested. So I give this the class row. And now both elements H2 and the image or the linked image will get a div class of column minus XS, and the H2 will be 8 columns. an image 4 columns. Let me close this right here, and we should be good. But it hasn't yet worked, so I've made a mistake somewhere. Let me run the test. We're good with the row. Here's a typo. In code line 18, I had to close the div. So just a simple typo. My mistake, sorry about that. But now we should be good, and you can see h2 and image are now in the same row. So it worked. And you can also see these two buttons, they make up 8 rows. They're in the same line now as our h2. And the delete button, which was 4 columns, is in the same line as our image, which also has 4 columns. So this is the grid that Bootstrap can create. Let us add font awesome icons to it. We've already used that, if I'm not mistaken, in earlier courses on freecodecamp. But if you don't recall, you add it once again by using a style sheet and then linking to it. It's done here behind the scenes as well. And we can use I elements for that. You could also use span elements, but it's now common to use I instead of using it for making text italic. It's used for icons as well. And then we can add these icons by adding the classes. So you can see font awesome as yet another library, in this case for icons, that we're linking to, and then we use them by applying these classes. Let me read what we need here. We need to add an icon to our like button. Make sure to keep the text like next to the icon. So maybe I place it here. We need I opening closing. And we can see the icon by adding the class FAS. So font awesome, and then FA thumbs up. And here you can see the icon. But it wants me to do something different. It should be located within the like button. So I cut that out and paste it right here. So now it's inside of this button. And now we should be good. Let's move on. We now add an icon to all of our buttons, and here you can see it has added the first one before the text, and there's also white space to create separation. So I keep that formatting. Let's add it to our info and also to our delete. So again, we need I opening closing. Inside the class, it was FAS, and then info circle. But be careful, if you just add info circle, it's not going to work. You have to add FA minus info circle. So FA is always for font awesome. You can see it in the test. So FA minus info minus circle, and here we can see it. Let me copy this for our delete button. And we need fi-trash. Now we take care of our radio buttons. So this is indoor and outdoor, right here inside of our form. And we put them in the same line. So once again we use row to nest both and then give each a div container that defines the column size, so the width. And remember, in Bootstrap it's always 12 columns by default. So if we want both of them to have the same width, we'll just use col -xs minus 6. So 2 times 6 is 12 obviously. This already works, but don't let me forget the row class that's going to nest both div containers. And we should be good here. Now we take care of the checkboxes. So we've got 3 right here, loving, lazy, crazy. Again, we need the row class first to nest them all, and then each one gets a specific width. In this case, 12 divided by 3 is 4, so we'll use col -xs minus 4. Now we'll check the input field and the button. So the final element of our form is the submit button right here, code line 70. Let's go to the input field first. We'll make it a class form control. So again, this is a predefined style in Bootstrap. And we'll set the bottom class to btn and btn-primary, which was this bluish color that we've used for like and our h2. And we also add an icon. Let me add white space. And this is going to be a paper plane, so FA or FAS, FI minus paper plane. And again, we'll use this grid system to align these elements. And this specifically for the input field and our button. So again, we need our div class row to nest both. our input field gets 7, so columns minus XS minus 7, and the submit button gets 5. Here it says it's the last challenge. So are we actually done? Let me check the curriculum. I don't know. And we're not done. It just says so because we don't use the cat photo app anymore, but there's still the Bootstrap section. So let us continue. We create an h3 class text minus primary. So this was this bluish color. And text minus center to put it in center. We create a container. And for now, this class doesn't do anything. So this is just a general container. It becomes more obvious when it does when we proceed. But for now, you can't see anything. We'll need a row. In the next step, we're going to split this row. So 2 elements using columns. Now we'll add wells to it, and we can already see them, these 2 columns. Now we add buttons to them. Alright, let's move on. We'll adjust the style of our buttons by using btn-default. And we also need the btn class. We'll add a new class to our buttons. This is not going to change anything, so it's not a Bootstrap specific class. So I think it's needed later on. Let us add some IDs, but only to our div containers using the class well. So we've got a left and a right well, therefore we'll use that as an ID. Oh, but we don't add a class, I'm sorry, this was my mistake. Let me delete that, we'll add an ID. Now we'll add an h4 to each. The first one is going to be left well. I don't know, should I use the hashtag as well? Let me check the tests. Yes, I should. So hashtag left well and hashtag right well. And now every button gets an ID as well. Target 1 up to target 6. Let us add some text to our targets. So hashtag target 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So don't forget the hashtag, it's needed here as well. And I believe this is the final one, so use comments to clarify code. And this should conclude this Bootstrap section. To pass this, you have to remember the way that we write comments in HTML, but it's also given here. And the text also given code below. This line should not be changed. Then close your comment. And then we're good. Next up is jQuery. As always, I try to solve it for next week, but I haven't yet checked it out, so I don't know if I can do it or if it's too complex, we will see. Up until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.